welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Steve Rowley here. Today is Thursday, January the 17th, 2019. It's 4 p.m. in New York, 1 p.m. in Los Angeles, 9 p.m. in London. Sydney, Australia is at 8 a.m., but wherever you are in the world, thank you for tuning in for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And this is an introducing day because even though Steve and Kelly Pretty were on the show with me and Joel a week ago, this is your first time as an official co-host. So, Steve, first of all, congratulations on being a co-host. Second of all, thank you for being a co-host. And third, welcome.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be a co-host. Well, it's certainly a fantastic opportunity for me to get my name out there and speak to people and spread some of this amazing stuff that we've all learned ourselves and worked on throughout our lives.
Absolutely. Yeah, this stuff is cool. It's mind-boggling at times. It's incredibly simple at times, but it's cool. It just is.
Awesome. Awesome.
And we are also obviously doing the live stream. If people, and I can see people are already tuning in on the live stream, this is also going to be a Q&A. It's going to be getting to know Steve because obviously we didn't have as much time last week with four of us talking as we could have, so we're going to get to know Steve some more. But if you have any questions or comments that you want to share, feel free to type them in if you're listening to the live stream, and we'll be glad to include you. This morning we had really lively conversation helping one of our listeners, and who knows what's going to happen this afternoon. We will find out. I see people are clocking in and logging in, but nobody's really saying anything yet, so I'm just going to start with Steve. Give us a potted autobiography. Tell us what Steve Rowley's all about and how you got to where you are. I mean, we kind of did this a little bit last week, but give us the fuller version.
We did well. The full version of, well, I won't give you the full version because that would probably take a decade. But I'll give you a bite-sized chunk of who I am and why I do what I do, how I got to where I am, and the joys of doing that, really. So my story started from probably not a very nice place. So I'll share my story if you like. So when I was a child, from the majority of my childhood up to my teenage years, I was actually subject to mental, physical, and sexual abuse by a person in power.
Wow.
So that's my story. I don't focus on that anymore for obvious reasons.
Yes.
But that led to the majority of my late teens and my early adult life. I sort of lived that in I was actually labelled with having PTSD. Notice the word I used there, labelled.
Labeled, absolutely, yeah.
So I had traumatic experiences in my life. Medical professionals and psychologists labelled me with what is known as PTSD, so that's post-traumatic stress disorder, as it is, and I attached that label to myself. And that became me for many years, up until I was around about, I'd say, 34 years old. And at that point in my life, I'd been through many failed relationships, a divorce. I didn't hold down a job for very long, and I didn't like myself very much at that point in time, but it taught me a lot. And at that point, I decided to take back control of my life. So I met my current wife now, Gemma, when I was 34. So I was in 2012. And we've both been through some trauma in our lives, which helped us to gel together.
Uh-huh.
We were both 100% honest with each other from the start. And I think that was the main thing. So that was the only time I'd really fully shared my story with another human being. So that opened me up to then being, I felt empowered by doing that. And that then prompted me to make other choices. So I started self-developing and reading books. I took myself off and paid for therapy and counselling, amongst other things. The counselor at the time introduced me to The Secret. That's where it all started. So
That's
I read
cool.
the book The Secret and some other books which I mentioned before. The Message of a Master by John MacDonald, and It Is Done by Richard Dawkes. But also one that really did help me was The Power of Now by
Oh,
Eckhart
yes.
Tolle.
Rick Holly? Sure.
Yeah. Because that helps you. Because what you realise is actually you've only really got the present moment, and in the present moment, you're fully in control of what you choose and decide to do next. How powerful is that?
It's very powerful. Yeah. In fact, I like something that Joel says about that. He says, you can't do anything about the past, and tomorrow isn't promised. That leaves today. There's nothing else left.
You've only got you've only got now. You can't see what's going to happen in the future. You can plan for it. You can move in a certain
Yeah,
direction towards what you want,
exactly.
which is the tools that we use with the LOA. Um,
Right.
but yeah, so at that point, I decided to go down this path. Me and my current wife, we started using the law of attraction and teaching ourselves and our subconscious mind how to run on different programs to what it had done in the past, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah, so we retrained our brains and our subconscious minds to actively work from a positive place and work from a place of infinite possibility rather than a place of lack and a place of pain, suffering, where I'd always been before. So
Mm-hmm.
I chose to do that. But I think the main part for me was realizing that in all that, so all the past experiences in my life, this is probably going to be a little bit controversial,
That's all
um,
right.
but all the
We're used
past,
to controversy. We do that all the time, so no big deal. We just keep it friendly and light. That's all.
friendly, light, and controversial. I like that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the past experiences and everything that had happened in my life, um, and all the issues that I'd experienced is gone. Where have you got? Oh, there you're back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm doing multiple things while we're doing this. My
I
monitor
thought,
kicked out over here, and I've replaced it over there, and I'm doing all this stuff. But I'm hearing you. I'm hearing everything you're saying.
so yeah. So once I realised that I was the common denominator in everything that had happened in my life, whether that was failed relationships, whether it was ill health, whether it was failed jobs or other things, but also I was also the common denominator in all the nice things that had happened in my life. So once I realised that that was the case,
Hmm.
why don't I create more of the nice things and stop creating the bad things?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
That's
that's
the
the
challenge.
bones of this stuff. Yeah, that's it. It's a choice, and that's the bones of this stuff. So that's my story,
That's a
where
good
I am
story.
now. So that's my story, and I've used the law of attraction. I've used all the coaching tools that I've learned throughout my career in the corporate world, but also obviously I've done coaching courses outside of that as well.
Sure.
I've worked in mindset work. The stuff that's in here now that I run on a daily basis, and it's proud. People don't realise the amount of mental work that goes into that. So
Yeah.
you people want to change. They say they want to change, but they're not willing to then put in the action to create that change in their lives, which is the bit that a lot of people get stuck on.
Sure.
But the common denominator side of it, and realizing that you're in full control of everything that's ever happened to you and everything that ever will happen to you in your experience of the world, that is,
Hmm.
um, opens your eyes up to the fact that actually this is powerful, and I can build the life that I want and that I dream of, which is what I've done.
We have
That's
our.
it, basically. That's me.
That's good.
Sorry, I went
That's
off on a bit of a tangent, but you can tell I'm
No,
passionate
no,
about
no,
this stuff.
that's fine. That's fine. We do. Let me tell you, if we have a show where we don't go off on at least two tangents, there's something wrong. So no
Good
problem.
point.
You're right in the swing. No, actually, we have our
No,
first question. Jeffrey is one of our regular listeners. He says, "Do couples that use the law of attraction do better when there is a relationship conflict?" A relationship conflict. What do you think about that?
A relationship conflict. I have them all the time with my wife. Who doesn't? I mean, in a relationship, you've got two separate people with two separate agendas.
Hmm.
Yes, we can compromise and work together and be if I mean I found my soulmate, so we're pretty much in alignment most of the time with the things that we do, but we still do argue, we still do have disagreements. But what it's about doing is accepting that my wife Gemma cannot make me feel a certain way.
Mm.
So if I bring myself back to the now, I have a choice whether to let what has happened, the circumstance, I don't know what it could be. We've had an argument about something, whatever it is.
Could be anything,
She,
really.
she could say something that ordinarily or does upset me,
Hmm.
but it's only upset me because I've allowed it to, and it's something inside me that is probably wrong that I need to sort out to stop that thing that she said upsetting me in the first place, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Does that make
Okay.
sense?
I
So
think so.
we're both really good now, after the work that we've done, of
Hmm.
accepting that we are the ones that control our own feelings.
Right.
So arguments won't last very long because we'll be like, right, okay, let's agree to disagree. I'm not going to let you upset me. I know you're not going to let me upset you, and then we'll come to some sort of arrangement that works, if that makes sense.
Okay.
We
Hey,
very,
whatever it
yeah,
takes. That's what I think.
people who use the law of attraction, we do go down manifestation routes. So we manifest things all the time together
Uh-huh.
because we are a lot of the time, like I say, in alignment with each other. So we'll both want the same things because that's why we're in a relationship, because we get on and we like the same stuff and we decide to make choices that we both want to do. It's about this compromise thing, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah. Well, I guess. I mean, I'll tell you my relationship with my wife Louise. When we first met, well, first of all, my wife had a background as a psychotherapist. So she had done therapeutic work for
That's
about
what
10
my wife
years.
is.
Also, same thing. No kidding. Oh, that's funny.
She's a clinical hypnotherapist and psychotherapist. That's one of her things, amongst
Oh,
other things
that's
that she does.
amazing. Yeah, well, my wife has her degree as a marriage and family therapist, so that's what she was doing most of that and some substance abuse stuff. But anyway, um, she had also been done her own work, which is often what is the case with people who become therapists,
Yeah,
psychiatrists,
yeah,
psychologists, all that kind of thing, that people become interested in it because of their own issues, right? And that was the case also for her. So she had worked through her own stuff, and for myself, I had been basically going blind through most of my life trying to figure this stuff out and managed somehow to heal myself on a lot of stuff, enough to the point where I could actually meet her and we could have a successful relationship. Um, but the funny thing we found is that when we got together, and from that day on, with very rare exceptions, we don't fight very much. I mean, we don't have the word compromise really isn't part of our vocabulary. It just seriously, and we're pretty much convinced what it comes down to is how much work have you done on yourself and how much work has the other person done on themselves before you got into the relationship. If you've done the work, then you never really have to compromise. You just stay who you are, they stay who they are, and you love each other for who you are. And it's simple,
exactly. Yeah,
you know?
yeah. You're right because I think we support. See, Gemma supports my decisions and the track that I want to go down.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
She'll allow me, she'll allow me to be me and do that, and vice
Right,
versa.
right.
So yeah, but you see, I mean, what you never have you. I can't believe that you've never had a disagreement with your wife.
Oh, sure, they happen occasionally, but they don't last real long. And we
Oh
never
yeah,
really
yeah,
compromise about it. We're like, how do we do it? It's not like we compromise. It's more like which person has the real strong passion for it, and which one is kind of going along with it because it's not all that important to them. I can't remember any time where she was passionate this way and I was passionate that way, and the two near shall meet. We've never had that.
yeah.
So that's why we came to the conclusion it's got to be because we did the work on ourselves.
Yeah, it is because you can accept that. You can
Yeah,
accept that. Hang
yeah.
on, do I really need to? disagree with this? Probably not. Let's just
Yeah.
let them be. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely, 100%.
It's just not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Like you said, you really want the best for the other person from their perspective, what they want. That's what you want for them. Sometimes that means we go in separate directions. And maybe that's where some of the conflict comes in. Because maybe there are some people who feel, well, you're a couple, you should be doing things together, and like, no, no, no. Sometimes you have to go off and do your own thing. That's a healthy human being who does that. So
Why
again,
would you want to? Why would you want to hold somebody back from their passion and what they love
yeah,
doing?
yeah, it doesn't seem to make any sense to me. So
No, it doesn't.
I don't know. I've had that question before. Louise and I have had a lot of discussions about it, trying to figure out, what's this whole thing about having to compromise all the time? And all we can conclude is, well, maybe it is for others, not for us. We never have to do that. So, Jeffrey, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what our take is at my end anyway. Oh, it's fun stuff. It's a
It
good
is.
question. It's a question that I think actually probably needs to be asked more often. But
I think it is. I think a lot of people have relationship issues, and it's because they've got an expectation. I'll do this now. They've got an expectation
air quotes.
of what the other person should be doing or thinking or feeling. It
Hmm.
comes down to what we spoke about on the last podcast about these assumptions
Yes.
and people assuming they know what somebody else is thinking. So, an example, a lot in my past, not anymore, but in my past, before I did the work, if I was walking through, I don't know, a shopping centre or a bar or whatever,
Okay.
and so as I walked past someone, a group of people started laughing.
Okay.
Assume automatically that they were laughing at me, which is probably a load of rubbish. Why would they be laughing at me? You don't even know I am. But this is the sort of thing that these assumptions can get you going
Yes.
down a thought process that really doesn't serve you. And then you're walking through the rest of that day upset that these people don't like you. You don't even know them. It's like, what's that about?
Exactly. No, you're right, and that can happen, and it's amazing how often that happens. It's easy for us to come to the conclusion that we have something going on in our heads, and therefore that is what is the main theme story that everyone around us is living with.
Yeah,
When
but
the
it's not.
fact is, everybody has their own little stories going on. It's not the same story. Everybody has little different stories going on, but
It's
that's where
awesome, isn't it? There's always, and this is where this thing about alternate reality things comes. I'm going to go off on a tangent again now, but
that's right.
everybody, if you're in a room with 50 people, every single one's got a completely different reality to you from the way they perceive what's going on.
Absolutely.
Isn't that
Yep.
awesome?
It's true. It's true. It's great, and I love it. So yeah, absolutely.
Have
Now
we
we
got any
also have
more?
a second question. This is actually from Nashia, who's one of our. I always call her my number one fan because she's literally the one who helps promote the podcast the most, and she's terrific. Um, and she actually called in this morning with an issue, so I suspect this is probably kind of a carry on to what she was calling about this morning. But she says, "How do we consider our past dead when some people remind you every day of it? How can we bury the past? Any tips on how to do that?"
Don't think. I don't think it's a case of burying the past. I think that the past is it's happened. It's been there. For example, my past wasn't a very nice one.
Mm,
With a lot of trauma in it. I
yeah,
accept. It's about accepting it for me. So I've accepted that that happened, but I've also accepted that I don't have to allow that in the present moment right now to affect me in the way that it used to,
right.
which allows me then to choose and decide from a place of calm where I want to go now. I just actually did it then whilst we sat here. I brought myself into the present moment because
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually, because I do this as a just
Like practice?
automatically now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just practice. So I can sit here because you'll have heard the tone in my voice change. I
Right.
slowed right down so that I could actually take myself back to my past. That's what I just did. I stopped in the present moment. I took myself. Well, no, I went back to my past. Sorry, because that's what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to bring my thoughts and my feelings back from that into the present moment to then calm myself back to where I needed to be, then to answer the question. So I think it's not about burying the past. You should never do that. It's there. It's about accepting that that happened. If people are then reminding you of it, which happens to me a lot, as you can imagine,
Mm.
but how do I handle that? For me, it's about again bringing myself back into the present moment whilst I'm speaking to the person that's done that, and then making them aware that actually that's not happening right now, so it doesn't need to be in my reality. Well, I don't know whether you use the word reality; it depends who you're speaking to. But it's,
Good point.
yeah, that doesn't need to be in my world right now because it's not happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone. There's nothing I can do to change it now. So why do we keep talking about it? Ask them that question. Put it back on them and see what happens. That's what I do. But again, that depends on the circumstances that that's happening in. If it's safe
Well,
to do that, fine. If it's
you
not,
effectively put it behind you, though. I mean, you're clearly describing how your past doesn't haunt you. But the
no, it
most that
doesn't.
it haunts you is when somebody else brings it up because they want to understand about it, but you don't even give it any attention anymore,
No, I don't give it any attention at all. It's
and you don't need
I've accepted it's there, but I don't need it anymore. I don't need
to.
to
Right.
take myself back there. I don't need to punish myself anymore because I used to punish myself for it.
Mm.
I don't need to go back to a place of shame. I don't need to go back to a place of worry, of fear, all those associated feelings that were there. I
Right.
don't need them anymore because they don't serve me. So I choose not to create them anymore. If that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's the goal, isn't it? To not create them anymore, and more importantly, not replay them over and over again so that they're haunting you, so that they're constantly, there and you can't avoid them, you can't get away from them, and
Yeah,
it takes over
absolutely.
your life after a while.
Well, that's what it did for the majority of my adult life up until 34. That's where I lived, in a place of fear, in a place of it was fear of situations, but actually when I looked back at it and did the work, the fear was coming from that past place, not from the
Hmm.
present moment. If
Right.
I was in the present moment, like now I'm talking on this podcast, this is only the second one I've done. I don't feel fear. I don't feel worried. I just feel as though I should be here and I should be talking to you and I should be doing this. I mean, that's lovely. It's a really nice place to be.
I'm really glad to hear it, actually.
And it's fantastic. It's about being at peace all of the time, and I love it. I
Mm.
absolutely love it. So anybody that's thinking about doing this sort of work on themselves, go and do it because the rewards are awesome, and you're just in a place of anything's possible. Then you've overcome all the challenges that ever happened in your past have
Hmm.
gone. They don't matter anymore. You don't
Mm.
need to worry about them. So what can you do then? You can move forward and do anything. It's endless possibilities. Because if you've overcome the shit that happened, sorry for swearing, um, you can overcome anything, can't you?
This is true. This is true. It actually strengthens us in ways that are almost incalculable to go through stuff like that and then come out the other side.
That's the awesome piece.
Yeah.
Because this is a bit controversial again, but if those things hadn't have happened to me, I wouldn't be the me I am now. I
Right.
wouldn't be a life coach that's helping people live their best life. I
Right.
wouldn't be working with charities helping other survivors of abuse to move past that pain point and get to a place where I am, and that's
Hmm.
so rewarding to be able to do that.
Sure.
Um, and I'm so grateful that I'm not grateful that the bad things happen to me. And
No,
I'm grateful that I've had that experience in my life to get me to this point where I can help all these people. I can do all this awesome stuff. That sounds probably a little bit wrong, but I'm not going to
no.
apologise
I
for
think it sounds great. Don't apologize for that. I think it's wonderful.
some people. It probably will, but it doesn't. It shouldn't, should it?
It shouldn't. No, you're right. There are some people who are going to take it wrong, but we can't satisfy everybody. Unfortunately, it'd be nice if we could, but we just can't. Got a couple more comments and questions. Dee Dee had a really interesting comment about this. She says the past being dead is simply saying it is a time in history that is just a memory. We can't physically return to it, but people do resurrect the dead past by bringing things up again and again, and we tend to resurrect the emotions of what happened in the past. That pretty much nails it, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That's a fantastic comment.
Yeah.
Can you? Can I get these comments later? Because I want to
Yeah,
steal that one.
absolutely.
I
Well,
like
you
that
can
one.
actually, you can no, you can just go to the LOA Today page on Facebook, and you can just follow the video there and see all the comments. Um,
Cool.
but now we have Jeffrey with a couple of follow-up questions. He says rather, first of all, how do you break free from a prison, from abuse? And then the second part is, can we change how we feel about what happened?
I'm not sure I'm understanding the question about the prison.
I think the prison that he's talking about is the prison of being in that trap that we were talking about, that place of reliving the past and of reliving the stuff that's been going on either recently or in the distant past or somewhere, but whatever is not the present, that's the point.
That is the work. You've got to put the work in. You've got to, because the reason that we relive those past experiences and relive the thoughts and the emotions and feelings from that then make us feel bad and then make us act in a certain way that's not conducive with where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're still working on the old subconscious patterns that we learned to survive those traumatic events, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need to do as individuals, which is what I've done, is actively shift those subconscious patterns to new ones.
Mm-hmm.
So doing that is getting yourself in the present moment and then choosing to take different paths. Or every time one of these feelings and thoughts, I've got a great exercise that I don't know if I shared it last time. I don't think I did.
I don't remember. I don't think you did. No. Tell us about it.
I've got a great exercise. It is from a book that I read, and it's brilliant. It's great for releasing negative emotions and feelings.
Okay.
I'll share that in the comments afterwards. I won't do it now because obviously I
Yeah,
can't get
sure.
on the do it. But I'll share the exercise and I'll try and dig out the book that it's from because it's a good one to read, which helped me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's about getting yourself into the present moment. Every time you feel yourself going into one of those episodes of either thinking about the past and what happened, then the feelings
Mm-hmm.
that then create the outcomes that you don't want. So I don't know, crying or being in a public place and having anxiety attack or whatever it may be for you, because that was one of my big ones. Anxiety attacks were awful. Once you get the first thought about a past event or a feeling, you can use this tool to then bring you back into the present moment, and then it'll allow you to then release it and release that emotion. And eventually, because what you're doing there is you're giving your subconscious permission to let go of them and stop going around in that perpetual loop. Because the subconscious mind doesn't realize that it's got a choice. All it's doing, this is one of the things that I used to do as well, I used to fight against my subconscious. But actually, subconscious is there to protect you. It's doing what it thinks is best for you. So it's creating these fear patterns or these anxiety patterns because it thinks that that's going to protect you because it did in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So when a bad thing was happening, you'd feel bad and you'd go and hide or whatever it may be. I don't know.
Right.
So it'll get you into a place that was safe or as safe as you could be. So those patterns are ingrained in there for years and years and years, and they're so difficult to break. So what you have to do is retrain it a new way to be by giving it the choice to release these emotions and go down a different path because it doesn't currently know it's got a choice. Now, that's not easy done, although it is easy done because all it takes is practice.
Hmm.
But it's a lot of practice.
Right.
But once you've got these tools, which I can give you, I will share it at the end. One of these, this one's awesome because it just works. It can work quickly, but for me, it took me probably about a month of doing it,
Hmm.
maybe 20 or 30 times a day. That's the work that's involved to change your subconscious patterns.
So
So
it's not just something you do for 5 minutes in the morning. You have to really make a commitment throughout your day to
you
do
have to
this.
really make a commitment to do this, to change those
Right.
subconscious patterns in bite-sized steps as you're moving through your life, your day, your week, whatever. But it's so worth it
Mm.
because I don't have to do that anymore. My subconscious patterns now never take me back to those feelings, thoughts, and in the past because I've retrained my subconscious mind to be where it needs to be. The only thing it's scared of now is actual imminent danger.
Mm.
So yes, I get nervous. I got nervous when I came on the first podcast. I
Sure.
was nervous,
That's
but
normal.
it didn't make me incapacitated, which it would have done had I not done the work. If that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah, it
So
makes
I
sense.
hope that's helped. Was it Jeffrey?
Yeah, it was Jeffrey, right. And Nasha actually has a follow-up to her question. She was asking about the dead past that keeps coming back. She
Yeah.
said, Walt, it's like I had forgotten about it, but if there is a wound and it's healed and there's a scar, if someone has a knife and keeps cutting the scar open and say, feel it, keep feeling it. Well, feel it to you because you did this. I mean, yes, I'm human. I screwed up. It was nothing major, but you make me feel like, oh my God, you were so wrong. Even if you were abused, you must have seduced the rapist. There's something wrong with you, you know? That's the feeling of what she's trying to express there. What do you think?
From my perspective on that is this person. I'm assuming this is another person that's doing this too. Then.
Right. I believe it's actually a family member.
Okay. So it's a really difficult situation to be in. Again, I suppose it's about you're. How do I put this in a way that will make sense? If you're the common denominator. What's is it? Is it Natasha? Sorry, the name.
Nasha. Nashia. Nasha.
Nasha. Right, Nasha. Um, in this, you have power here that you can use to change this situation. So I'm assuming here now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nasha. I'm assuming that every time this happens and that wound's cut back open by this said person, that makes you feel a certain way. So again, you can change how you respond to what this other person is saying or doing and make it so that change your subconscious so that it doesn't affect you in the same way anymore. Again, this tool that I've just talked about will help you do this. So I'll share it at the end. So if you do this and practice it, and this no longer affects you in the way that that person wants it to, then they have to shift their behavior and stop doing it because they're not going to keep doing it if it's not working, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
you still have the power to change how you respond to that action. The other one is which is a little bit more drastic, will be to take yourself out of that relationship because it's obviously it's not healthy for you right now from what you said. But again, that's your choice.
Well, she also has an extra difficulty because of the country she lives in. Uh, she doesn't have an option to leave the house.
Okay.
She's in a rough situation where she literally is. I think it's partly what Jeffrey was referring to. She's a prisoner in her own house, and
Right.
she's dealing with
Difficult
these
one.
personalities in that same house. So
Yeah.
literally, about the only place where she's even marginally safe is in her own room.
There isn't. The only way to do that is to get away from it and change it, or go down the route of what I just discussed about changing the way that you respond to what's happening, and that might make the people that are doing that change their behaviour and stop doing it. I
Mm.
don't know. There are different options available, but it's not for me to say which one to take because that's Nashia's choice, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the tool that you mentioned is going to most likely be helpful. I mean, I've tried to help her with similar approaches like that. And I'm curious to know more about that particular tool to see what's the activity that you're doing many times throughout the day, because I suspect it's a reprogramming tool. I suspect
Which
it's a
is
way of basically reprogramming the mind, reprogramming the brain, you taking advantage of the plasticity of the brain and creating
yes.
new channels and then as you create the new channel reinforcing it, reinforcing it, reinforcing it so that it becomes the new tape that plays in your
Yeah,
head, replacing the old
the
one.
conscious pattern that you've got there. Yeah.
Right.
So you want me to run through it quickly?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
So if I might not get it perfectly right because I'm working from memory,
Yeah.
but this is the way it works is at once. In fact, shall we do it together?
Okay.
Everybody listening or,
Yeah,
or watching or whatever.
I'll do it. Sure.
Let's do it together. That's the easiest way.
Okay.
So what I want you to do, if you close your eyes,
All right.
and now I want you to think of a traumatic event or something that brings up a really negative emotion inside you. Give you a little bit of time to do that. So at this point in time, you should start to feel a flurry of negative emotions coming into your body. Now, just sit with that for a minute and just take it in and accept that it's there. I'm doing it as well. So, now, what I want you to do is ask yourself this question. So, could I let this feeling go?
That's a question I've asked many times.
But what that's doing is that question is then giving your subconscious permission to let that feeling go and not hold on to it and make you feel bad.
Okay.
That's the first step. Now, the second step is the next question, which is, can I let this feeling go? Sorry, what was the first question?
Are you willing?
That was the first question. Can I let this feeling go? The second question is, am I willing to let this feeling go?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the answer to both those questions in reality should be yes, because why would you want to hold on to it?
Mm.
So again, giving the subconscious the choice, it can say, sometimes it does say no. Mine did to start with. It'll say, no, I want to keep this because I'm safe. It makes me feel safe. But eventually, you'll change that and it'll go to no. And then the third question is when? That's got to be now, hasn't it?
There's no other option.
No other option. So that won't work the first time you do it. I 100% guarantee it will not work the first time you do it. Your subconscious will say, get out of here. I'm not having this. If that's what's happened. So with that negative emotion, you've got to keep doing it. The first time I did it, I think it took me 18 times to even feel a shift.
Mm.
But I kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. And eventually you feel something change. You'll feel it go. I mean, sometimes it takes only one time, or two times, or three. It depends how deep the pattern is and how not very nice the emotion is, I suppose.
Mm.
Once you do that over and over and over again, your subconscious is like, hang on a minute, I've got this. I don't need that anymore. Got this. Where's that come from? I don't need that anymore. And this is where I am now. Well, I still get them every now and then. Don't get me wrong. I'm not this super being that's always very happy.
You're not perfect? What's wrong with you?
I'm not perfect. I don't think anybody can ever be perfect.
Yeah,
So I still get them now, and I still get them quite often. But I can instantly just chuck them away now. It's like I don't need that. That's not serving me. Don't need that. It's not serving me. But that's where you can get to with this exercise. I will put it in writing on the thing. So it's easy to read through, and it makes more sense.
It
But yeah,
sounds simple enough. I mean, a three-step process, and you're just repeating the same three steps over and over again.
yeah, and it makes these shifts in your subconscious gradually over time until you're at the point where I'm free of that now, which is a nice place to be.
It is a nice place to be. What you're describing, I mean, it has a lot of commonality with many affirmations that people suggest or practices that people suggest because they're all repetitive in nature. But what I love about this one is the simplicity is such that all you're asking your subconscious mind to do over and over and over and over and over again is reconsider this thing, reconsider it, reconsider it, reconsider it, reconsider it, until finally it gets to the point where it says, well, maybe I should reconsider it.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that, and it's a wonderful thing because when it does reconsider it, you can feel it. You can absolutely 100% feel that change. And once you've done it, and then you're off, then you're away. You just want to keep doing it for everything in your life. And it's like, wait, I can get rid of anything now. And that's how powerful it can become. But it is so simple, and that's why I liked it, and that's why it worked for me because it was so simple.
Was that your main tool for dealing with your past stuff?
It was one of them. There were
One of
many more.
many more.
Many more. I
I,
can't think
I
of them
found
off
that
the
to be
top of
very common. I've yet to find anybody who has just one or two processes that made all the difference. The only time I ever hear that is if somebody's trying to sell me something. But beyond that, most people will tell me they have a whole range of processes that they pick from, and this one they'll do in that case, and this one they'll do in that case, and so on and so forth.
well, I do that one. I do meditation. I do mindfulness. I read a lot because when
Mm.
I'm reading, I'm learning, I'm expanding. I'm not staying in the same place. I think that's one of the main ones for me because I got stuck in this perpetual loop for the what I don't know 20 odd years, 20 25 years or whatever. Perpetual loop of not very niceness. That's how I'll
Mm.
explain it. Um, and I didn't in that period of time I didn't grow as an individual. Although saying that, yes, I did. I grew on a professional level through jobs and work, but that was it. I didn't grow on an emotional or spiritual or internal level. It was all
Well,
external stuff.
you were building the platform though, because you were constantly tripping over that same tripwire every single time. And the more that you did that, the more it traumatized you, and the more that it traumatized you, the more you're building this foundation. It's kind of like a launching pad. I like the way
Yeah,
that's what Joel's word is for it. It's a launching pad.
yeah,
So that
yeah,
when you finally do have your breakthrough, it launches you into orbit. I mean, it's like a
yeah.
takeoff because you've been swimming in the context and the contrast for so long. It's like, let me out of here.
Yeah, it's like I was going to swear then, and it wasn't a very nice swear word. But yeah, it's like your subconscious. You suddenly say, Enough's enough. Enough is enough. Let's something's got to change now." And
Right.
once you've got to that point, it's for me it was at one of the lowest points in my life.
Mm.
So I split up with my wife. I'd been made redundant from my job, and I was homeless. I didn't have a penny in the bank. And that's when it happened. I thought, I've done this so many times over and
Mm.
over again.
Mm.
I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So I just went and asked for help, and that's what it was for me. And then when I asked for that help, I got more help than I needed. And then well, look what's happened now. I've got the life of my dreams, and it's. But this is the thing: anybody can do this stuff. Any
Mm.
single person, anybody on this planet can do this stuff. But they've got to accept 100% that it's their responsibility to do it and nobody else's.
I love the point that you just made that anyone can ask for help, and when you ask for help, you get it in spades. And that's not the way you said it. That's my way of saying it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it
yeah.
really is true. I mean, well, Nasha and Jeffrey are demonstrating it here. I mean, they ask a few questions, and we're probably telling them more than they even want to know. We're just giving them huge amounts, right? But that's the norm. That's not just on this podcast. That's the way it normally works. You ask for help, and people will give you help. I mean, some of the help it may not even be all that helpful, but they'll do what they can. They'll try, and you get enough people involved somewhere along the line, you're going to find the right person who gives you the right piece of information. That's what happened with you. You found the right pieces of information, and it worked out.
Yeah, and then
That
I
I
pieced
think
them together.
That's a big deal right there. Because when you're in that depressed state, that traumatized state, the first thing that I think that happens in the mind of somebody who's in that state is to believe that no one can help them and no one
Yeah,
will help them. And they're on their own and they're about to drown.
yeah, yeah.
Right? That's the,
Absolutely. That's how it feels. That is how it feels. I've been there.
yeah,
But again, that is a choice. It doesn't feel like a choice at the time, but it is.
it is.
Because I chose to stay in that state because it was what I was used to. It's where I felt comfortable.
Mm,
And I can talk about this stuff now. And I was in a place of, I mean, I had thoughts, suicide thoughts. I think I attempted it once. And from that place to where I am now, and being able to say at 100% that all those things that happened and all those things that I chose to do were my responsibility, and
mm,
nobody else made me feel like that apart from me. I mean, that's powerful for me to be able to say that
absolutely.
now. Because on the other hand, now because I know I've got that power to make myself feel so bad and choose to, I can use that power to make myself go the other way. That's
Mm,
that's the realization that you come to when you do this work. You realize that you're mega powerful. You've got
yeah.
all this stuff inside you that you were using to make yourself feel like death, like the worst person in the world, and creating all these things in your life to keep you there, and using all that passion that you've got to go out and find things that were going to make you feel bad. What? Why am I doing that? Why don't I use all that passion and that power and that energy to go the other way? Which is what I've done. And that is just, sorry, I get, you can tell I'm passionate about this, can't you?
Oh yeah, very much. Hey, we like passion around here. Passion's really good.
How can I not be passionate about something that saved my life?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's
Dee
there
Dee
for everyone.
actually Dee Dee made a comment that kind of piggybacked on what you were talking about a moment ago. She says
Yeah,
people can offer help in spades, but it is not always accepted and applied in spades, which is exactly what you were talking about.
yeah, absolutely. But the person, it's not, this is the thing though. Someone's got to be ready to ask for that help. You
Mm,
can offer to help them, but if they're not ready to accept it and ask for it and move forward with it, it's just never going to happen. It's not going to work. So I think when you look at a lot of these stories and a lot of the people that I've worked with in the past and that I still work with now, they have all had to get to a point of um, the lowest of the low, the deepest depression for them. Everybody's is different.
right?
Um, you've got to get to that point to be able to then come back from it and realize that's where the realization generally happens. It did for me anyway.
By the way, Nashia, is the one dealing with the in-home abuse situation, has commented. She says, "The only thing I have to do is cut off from my abusers. Enough is enough. Thank you so much. This entire day has been very helpful."
Uh, I'm going to cry.
Nasha is also one of our most appreciative people. I mean, literally, I think almost every podcast where she's asked a question that was really important to her, and very often she'll instant message me afterward, and it's a long spiel of thank you, and I'm so appreciative, and you're wonderful, and all this other stuff. Let me tell you, it's great to have a number one fan. It really is.
It is. But that's what this stuff is for. It's about sharing our experiences so other people can go down and have the same experiences themselves because there's not people don't share enough, in my opinion. And
I agree.
there, yeah, there are
Well,
a lot of
there's social
people
pressures,
in
though.
the
There are
world.
social pressures in place that prevent us from sharing. Part of
Yes,
them
there are.
are just because of societal expectations. I mean, you and I both experienced it as males. Males, we're not allowed to share our feelings. That's not, you're not supposed to do that. You're
Well,
supposed
I
to be.
am now. I don't care what I'm supposed to do. I just do it anyway. I'm not going to hold back anything anymore. I did that enough. I did that for enough of my life to.
But that's what we were trained to do, right? When we're growing up, that's exactly what we were trained.
Yeah, yeah. You
Yep.
don't
So
talk
we're
about
still in
that. You don't talk about this. Yeah.
touch. So
But it's a crazy world we live in. But it's I think it is changing. I think it's a pivotal. I
it
can't say the word pivotal point now, isn't it? Because
really
there are more and more people waking up to reality and what's really going on and the power that they've got in themselves
it's
to.
so encouraging, I think. I mean, that I think that's one of the big benefits I take away from just doing the podcast. Hearing all of
Yeah.
what, the people who listen to the live stream and people who send in comments and questions by email or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, just hearing how we are connecting with them on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, and realizing we're having a positive impact. I mean, that keeps me going. I often get people asking me, how do you do 11 podcasts a week? And when I look at
I
that
thought
way,
you
I
were
say,
going to say having a day then.
when I look at that way, I say, I have no idea. I can't imagine how I can do that. But when I'm in the middle of it,
Yeah.
it's easy because every single one fuels me. It feeds my soul. Just
Yeah,
knowing that we're we are leading the way in opening up. We are leading the way in working with each other and helping each other and so forth. It's one of the things that I love about what we're doing here. So I
it's,
want to thank you, by the way, for joining the team because I can tell you're going to fit in real well. Very,
it's
very
awesome. It's awesome. I mean, I've been actually having a chat with Joel on Messenger, um, and he's a really awesome guy as
Isn't
well,
he
isn't he?
great? He's really
Yeah.
something. I mean,
But,
we have 11 people who are co-hosts, and every
yeah.
one of them is really special. I mean, Linda Armstrong, who does the Friday afternoon with me,
Yeah.
she's brought me perspectives I didn't even know existed. I mean, she's
That's
incredible.
fantastic. Yeah.
Really, yeah. And well, of course, you already have met Kelly. You met Kelly before I met her, and I got to know her with Alex King, who does the Tuesday afternoon podcast with me. So Kelly's doing the Tuesday with me now, and she is amazing. I mean, I get those two. I even made the comment when I wrote up the description for the podcast last Tuesday. I said, "This is a dynamic duo. I can't wait to see what's going to come out of them." Because I mean, the two of them, it's like rapid fire. It's like I just sit back and watch what's going to happen.
That's fantastic. Well, hopefully, I think is Drew back on here next week.
Drew will be back with us next week. Yes, so we'll be able to talk with him too and help him work through some of the stuff he deals with.
That's going to be interesting. That's going to be
Yeah,
interesting to work.
it's fun. Drew's a good guy. He's a really good guy. His heart's in the right place, and he wants so much to make change in his life and to make a better life for himself. And I think he actually wants to be able to carry it over to his friends, people he knows, other people who are like him. He's fresh out of college. He
Yeah,
graduated, I think, last June, and
yeah.
he's dealing with. You remember what it's like when you get out of school. All of a sudden, all of what you knew
But,
for the last 12 to 16 years is gone.
yeah.
And
It's
you're on your own.
it's
Okay, let's see what kind of dance you can do.
but
Yeah,
again, hopefully we'll be able to help him through that and get him to a place where he really wants to be. That's what I'd like to get out of that. It'd be good
it's a
fun.
lot of fun to do that. Yeah, and I thought the same kind of thing that happened with Alex and with Kelly on Tuesday is what's going to happen with you and Drew on
Yeah.
Thursday. You know,
Yeah.
I can just I don't know. I think I've gotten good at hooking people together so that it's the right people, the right co-hosts of the right shows,
Yeah. Yeah.
like the results.
Well, that's it. We'll
Anyway,
see how it goes.
we got a couple minutes.
It's all good
I just
stuff.
want to see if there are any more questions that people brought in.
Well,
Most of us a lot of thank yous and so forth. I have, oh yeah, people, well, you and your podcast are excellent. Well, thank you, Nasha. Like I said, Nasha's my number one fan. She really is. Makes me believe in humanity. Oh, thank you, Nasha. That feels really good. I really appreciate that.
this is the thing. This is the thing. This is one of my big things. Is I will not watch any news channels at all.
Mm,
I just don't do that. And the reason for that is the news is generally bad stuff happening in the world, a bit more bad stuff happening in the world, and some more bad shit happening in the world, and then
yes.
something
Oh
else
yeah.
that's not very nice happening in the world.
Hmm.
Why would I want to subject myself to that? But from experience, all the people I meet, either online, yourself, different countries, all over the world, I'm connected with people all over the world from doing this stuff. And the amount of good that's out there is
Mm.
phenomenal.
Isn't that? Oh, it just gives me much more than hope. That's like a trite thing to say. It gives me hope. It makes me excited to
Yeah,
know
yeah.
how much of that good, how much of that interaction is going on in the world today, largely because of social media. But I mean, it's incredible what's happening.
Let's just
And
hope they don't turn it off.
uh, I don't think it will. And you know why? Because of the law of attraction.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly
We're all connected. We're all doing this stuff, and there's a purpose to it.
there
And
is.
we're all on our own little creative journey to, and we're all doing it for the right reasons. We're all
Hmm.
doing it for the right reasons, and that's the point, isn't it? We're all doing it to expand and help other people.
Jeffrey has a couple of interesting comments. He says, "This show is a meditation. It will always evolve." Preach on, Steve. Preach on.
I like that. That's good.
I tell you, we have the best fans in the world. We really do. I've been saying this for months and years now. Back to even when the whole thing of doing 11 podcast episodes a week, that's been going on for a little over a year now. But
Yeah.
even in the years before that, where I was just doing it once weekly, and a lot of that time was with Joel. Joel was my co-host for a lot of that time. We just kept talking about we have great listeners. We really, I mean, seriously, I don't think there's anybody out there who's got better listeners than we do.
But
And I say that a lot,
that's
but
why
it's
you do this.
true.
That is why you do it.
Yeah, yeah. It just it fuels me. It keeps me going. I do want to remind people if you're not yet a subscriber, I can't imagine why you're not a subscriber at this point. But if you're not a subscriber, we want you to become one. Go to the homepage of our website if you can't find the links in the description. But the homepage of our website has links for Android users and another link for Apple, iPhone, iPad users. And it just walks you right through the process. And then you get all of the episodes coming right to your smartphone every single time that we publish one. And after you are subscribed, make sure that you're sharing each time that you're listening to people who are in your life who you think might be receptive to the message that we put out on any given show. All of the shows are different. I mean, Steve, I don't know if I can explain to you just how different every show is, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
really is. I mean, I never know which direction they're going to go when we get the cameras turned on, but they're great. They're fun. And you're going to find the variety is really, really exciting. I also want to encourage people not only to watch us on the live stream, but also we have many, many more people who listen to the recording or watch the recorded video. Um, Encourage you to contact us too. Send us emails. You can email me at walt@loatoday.net. Send us messages by Facebook, tweet to us, whatever you want to do. Use the form on our contact page of the website. But send us your questions. Send us your comments and we include them in the conversation because I really strongly believe that interaction with the audience is what is going to make the best podcasts in the world. And so that's the formula that we follow here. So keep those cards and letters coming in is what the old phrase used to be. And I still like that one. I think I'll stick with that. But this has been great. Steve, thank you very much for joining the team and for your insights today. I mean, I can't wait to see what's going to happen next week with Drew because after getting to know you better,
Fantastic.
I mean, the two of you are going to go, whoa, it's going to be another explosion. It's going to be great.
It's been fantastic. You know what? Seriously, I'm genuinely grateful for this opportunity to be on here with you, Walt. It's fantastic. And if anyone does want to connect with me on Facebook, by all means do. I'm happy to answer questions on there. So it's Steve Rowell. That's my profile. You can find me on there, or you can have a look on my website, which is www.dolifeonpurpose.com. For a little bit more information about what I do. But yeah, do connect. If you've got any questions you want to ask answering that you didn't get the chance to ask on here, by all means do that. I might fire some back to Walt. We'll both give a take on it if you want to do that. And I'll see you next week.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Well, thank you, Steve. And thank you for telling us how to reach out to you, too. I'll make it a point to do that on a regular basis so that we're helping to promote the services that you provide, too. But it's great that you're willing to give people, an easy way to connect with you, and I really appreciate that. And as for our listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
the line.